Alright lads, Canelo Alvarez versus Callum Smith, WBA super middleweight world title, December 19th. We're going to get into this. We'll break it down, give my full preview, full prediction. I think most people know who I'm going for in this fight anyway. But let's just have a little chat about this fight and how we got there. Okay? Canelo Alvarez in 2020 has been... in fairness, for Callum Smith, there was talk of this fight at the start of the year, and then, Joe Gallagher had one of those little, moments where he thinks he's the A side and prices himself out. But obviously, knowing what's happened this year, no one can really do that. Now, Canelo, we heard Billy Joe in May. We were hearing that was getting pushed back. We were hearing possibly September. Then we were hearing guys like Terrell Johnson, Jay Quigley, Yildirim, Derevich. We were hearing all sorts of names. And then it kind of seemed like... Canelo wouldn't fight in 2020. Then we were hearing about him splitting from DAZN and Golden Boy. We were thinking, geez, he really isn't going to fight in 2020. Then this fight just came about. So I'm happy. It's a good fight. It's a competitive fight. Both guys will have been out of the ring a little over a year at the time of fight night, which is December 19th. And it's a good way to round off Christmas. Obviously, we've got a few fights after Christmas, but this is a good way to round it off. Christmas week, we get this fight. So, Canelo Alvarez, look, we know about Canelo. In my opinion, pound for pound number one. I think it's a general consensus now, given the fact Lomachenko lost and Crawford's been looking a bit, not shaky, but he's been, he's not been dazzling, as much. Obviously, the Kell Brook win was nice, but not been dazzling, that much. So, Canelo Alvarez is the general consensus pound for pound number one. Callum Smith at super middleweight. He is seen by some, not myself, as the best super middleweight in the world. Now, Callum Smith, ever since I first started watching him many, many years ago, well, the first thing that jumps out at you with Callum Smith is how big he is at the weight. He's huge for middleweight, or super middleweight. I mean, really, he could be a cruiserweight, and he would not look out of place at cruiserweight. Seriously. He's a 6'3" man. He must walk around well in the 190s. Seriously, look at the guy. He must walk around into the 190s. So, he is probably going to be... In fact, just thinking about it, other than Chavez Jr., he's probably going to be the biggest guy Canelo Alvarez would have fought in terms of size. And, well, actually, to be honest with you, Callum Smith's probably still smaller than Chavez Jr., but in terms, he's going to be one of the biggest guys in terms of his physical size. So that's something Canelo's going to have to contest with. He is better than Chavez Jr.'s Callum Smith, but I've always felt that Callum Smith, he's a good fighter, don't get me wrong, but in terms of him being, the elite, I've never really seen it. I've never really seen it because people harper back to him, winning the World Boxing Super Series, which was a good achievement, but let's not beat around the bush here, right? We look at someone like Alexander Usyk, alright? He fought Myris Briedis. Marco Huck was a bit of an easy win, but then he fought Kasiev. Now, at the time, these were all the top cruiserweights, alright, and he beat them. Even Hook to an extent, but he beat the top cruiserweights, right? With Callum Smith, a lot of the main super middleweights like Zuda Ramirez, Jesse Hart, Plant, guys like that, they didn't take part in that tournament. He fought guys like Eric Skoglund, and he fought a kickboxer. He was meant to fight Jürgen Bremer. That fight didn't happen, and he fought some kickboxer who looked very shaky. Didn't look great against Skoglund either. Then he fought an injured George Groves. Alright, and that was an even Steven fight until he was able to get George Groves out of there. George Groves quit pretty much. Callum Smith, he didn't dazzle in it, apart from really the George Groves fight, but as I said, an injured George Groves. He didn't dazzle, he didn't make people's jaw drops, and the general consensus going into George Groves fight was Callum Smith was going to lose. That was general consensus. So Smith, although he is seen by some as number one super middleweight in the world, I've never seen it myself. Canelo, one of his strengths is his head movement. Alright, his counter punching ability, his ability to let combination punches go, his ability to throw body shots. Callum Smith has very poor defense to body shots. In terms of speed between him and Canelo, it's night and day. He's not the slowest super middleweight in the world, but at world level, against guys like Canelo, John Ryder, stuff like that, he is as slow as molasses. I seen probably only once, which was the George Groves fight, where Callum Smith did actually use his height and reach. He still got tagged with by George Groves, but George Groves is really more of a long range sharpshooter as well. He's not really got an inside game. He's not really good at closing down opponents. So Canelo Alvarez can close you down just with his head movement. I mean, if we look at his head movement against Danny Jacobs couldn't even land the jab on Canelo with regards to Canelo's head movements. Alright? Canelo Alvarez is not massive. Like, Jacobs is bigger. He's 6'1", so he's not massively bigger than Callum Smith in terms of size. Jacobs can box at long range. Callum Smith is not a great long range boxer. And when he is at long range, he only really knows straight jab, straight right, straight jab, straight right. He doesn't vary it up. It doesn't really change it up. So Canelo Alvarez is not going to have much to read in the way of what's coming back at him. Callum Smith, as we saw in the John Ryder fight, it's very easy to slip underneath his long range shots. It's very easy to pin him up again the ropes. It's very easy to unleash combination punches on him. Now, if someone like John Ryder, who in my opinion won the fight, can do that to Callum Smith, you know where I'm going with this. Someone like Canelo can do that on a different scale. I think that Canelo, from early on in the fight, is going to be able to counter Callum Smith's punches. He is going to be attacking the body. As I say, Callum Smith's not got a great defense to body shots. And this fight, I think, I said in the live stream once that I'm going to be interested to see, can he go longer than his brother Liam Smith. Liam Smith went 9 rounds with Canelo Alvarez at 154 pounds. I'm going with Canelo to stop Callum Smith. And I'm just trying to think, do I think he'll go late or do I think he'll go mid-rounds? Don't think he'll go early, but do I think he'll go mid-rounds? Now, another thing you need to take into consideration is the weight. Apparently there's no rehydration clause in place for this fight, which is a good thing for Callum Smith. However, this is a guy who 5 years ago people were saying, when are you going to move to light heavyweight? Soon. It was 5 years later, still super middleweight. He's been out of the ring a year. Okay? He is growing. So I'd imagine that it is getting harder and harder for him to make that weight. So I would imagine that irrespective of having a rehydration clause in this contract or not, it's going to be a job for Callum Smith to make super middleweight. And if you are having the job making super middleweight and you are getting laced with body punches, that is a recipe for disaster right there. And as I said, I think that is exactly what's going to happen. I think that Callum Smith's lack of defense to the body, his defense to the head is not terrible. You know, it's not great, but it's not terrible. George Groves was able to tag him a few times. He took those shots quite well. Canelo Alvarez at 168 has been shown to be quite a decent puncher. I think that Canelo, as I said, his speed, his head movement, his counter-punching ability, is able to counter-punch on the front foot, his timing, everything is just going to be way too much for Callum Smith. In my opinion, I think we're going with Canelo. I think we're getting the Canelo stoppage. I think he's going to stop him to the body. He may even do something similar to what he did to Rocky Fielding, where he just lights up to the body and then the head will soon follow. I think that might be something similar to what we're going to be getting here. I can see Callum Smith's body getting worked over, and I can see him getting stopped in this fight. This fight is going to be broadcast on DAZN. For those who don't know, they have officially launched the app now. I've subscribed to DAZN. Good news for anyone who's watching this video from Ireland, it is $1.99 in Irish money too. I done my subscription last night. €1.99, £1.99 in the UK. Good deal. It's only boxing, but still, I'm happy to pay. It's £1.90. It's £2 a month. You know, it's not that bad. It ain't that bad. Okay, so my Patreon will pay for it because I make more from Patreon than £2 a month, so it'll pay for that and plus money left over. So that's my prediction for this fight. I think Canelo Alvarez is going to win this fight via stoppage. If I had to say when, I'd say similar to Liam, probably like between rounds 8 to 10, rounds 8 to 10. Because rounds 8 to 11, but I think that's cutting too far. So between rounds 7, 8, 10, I reckon we'll see Canelo Alvarez be able to get Callum Smith out of there. As I said, the work John Ryder did, I think Canelo can implement that. The way John Ryder was able to back Smith up to the ropes, the way Callum Smith's punches were going over John Ryder's head, the way he looked so just all over the place when John Ryder was able to push him back. It wasn't even that much he was pushing back through the physicality. It was just through sheer Callum Smith really not knowing what to do when a guy gets close to you. I mean, all John Ryder was really doing at times in that fight was turn his head to the side, you know, avoiding any of the shots that were coming through and then just hitting Callum Smith with body shots. For my money, John Ryder won the fight. So I think we could see something similar in this fight. That's my predict, as I said. Canelo Alvarez, between rounds 7 to 10, stopping Callum Smith. If you disagree, let me know in the comment section. If you agree, let me know as well, right? I'm going to call it here. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new. Hashtag GMansRocks, King of Rip Jeans, all that good stuff. I'll talk to you people. Peace. Lads, before I go, if you want to access some of my boxing content, right, have a look on screen just there. That is a screenshot from Patreon. It's called Boxing Extra Content. It's £3 a month. What you get for that, right, is you will get a lot of the videos that I will do here on YouTube. You'll get them in podcast format, and you can use them in a podcast app. The difference being is that on YouTube you will get a video just like the video you just watched there, which is very, all good, it's all this, that and the other. What I'll be doing on Patreon, I'll be re-recording a lot of them videos, obviously in podcast format, but I can let my hair down a bit more. That's the best way I can describe it. I can let my hair down a bit more. I can kind of say, not that I always say what I want to say on YouTube, but I can kind of go in a bit harder if I need to. And as well as that, for the £3, you also get a monthly podcast. Alright, there are some other tiers where you can get some merchandise, but realistically we're looking at just the Boxing Extra. I think that's what most people down here want. So have a look on screen. Some of the podcasts I've actually done over the last few months there, so you kind of get to see it's a bit more psychology end of everything, but have a look on screen there. As I said, Boxing Extra content is there. Give it a look, links in the description. I'll talk to you again, people. Peace.